Donald Trump has made a decision on Iran and is holding final consultations with allies before launching an attack on the Ayatollah regime in Tehran. Donald Trump advised Iran to quickly make a deal on its nuclear program, as a new United States attack on Iran would be much worse than the previous one. Meanwhile, the United States has greatly increased its military presence near Iran's coast. In the past 48 hours, the 6th United States Navy destroyer, United States ship Buildup Black, has entered the region. There is also an entire squadron near Iran now, including the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln. The United States is also sending several terminal high-altitude area defense missile defense systems to the region at once, signaling serious preparations. By the way, this didn't even happen before the 12-day war in June of last year. At the same time, high-ranking representatives of the defense and intelligence agencies of Israel and Saudi Arabia arrived at the White House this week for talks on Iran. And now both countries are ready for an attack, but they are calculating how to minimize the consequences for themselves. While Israel insists on an attack, Saudi Arabia is still trying to persuade the White House to take a more ironic approach. Therefore, in this episode, we will discuss everything that is known about the United States preparations for an attack on Iran. At this moment, my name is Pechiy. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave any comment under this episode, and subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechiy News. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as it comes in. The United States has reportedly increased its military presence off Iran's coast. And as a source in the American government told Reuters, the 6th United States Navy destroyer, United States Buildup Black, has entered the region in the past 48 hours. There is also an entire squadron near Iran right now, including the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln. And according to Reuters sources, United States President Donald Trump is considering various options for putting pressure on Iran, including the possibility of strikes against Iranian security forces and government buildings. According to the sources, Donald Trump's goal is to create conditions for a change in the country's political leadership after the suppression of mass protests, during which, according to human rights activists, thousands of people were killed. Among the scenarios being discussed are targeted strikes against commanders and military facilities, and in this way the United States is allegedly responding to the violence against protesters. Well, large-scale operations against Iran's missile infrastructure and nuclear facilities are also being considered, and sources emphasize that a final decision on the use of military force has not yet been made. Israeli and Western officials expressed doubt that airstrikes alone can lead to the fall of the ruling Ayatollah regime in Iran. And according to their assessment, without a serious split within the security forces and without the formation of an organized opposition, a change of power is unlikely. Even if the Americans bomb Iran for weeks, there is also a risk that external intervention will only strengthen the position of Iran's main military force, that is, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. By the way, today in Europe, the IRGC was declared a terrorist organization, which indicates that groundwork is being laid for strikes. Well, as Reuters writes, 3 Western diplomats and a high-ranking Western source stated that they are concerned that instead of bringing Iranians out into the streets, that is, returning to protests, United States strikes might actually weaken the movement. And they are already in a state of shock after the bloodiest repressions by Ali Khamenei's regime since the Islamic Revolution of 1979. And on the other hand, Iranian high-ranking officials. A high-ranking source told Reuters that Iran is preparing for a possible war, but is ready to negotiate through diplomatic channels. In Tehran, they are now emphasizing that the Iranian nuclear program is purely peaceful, but they warn that in the event of an attack, Iran will defend itself like never before. Regional United States allies in the Persian Gulf countries fear that a possible strike on Iran will lead to consequences. Regional allies in the Persian Gulf countries fear a possible strike on Iran. It should be noted that exactly the same concerns existed before the 12-day war in June of last year, and now as well. It is reported that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, and Egypt are still lobbying for the cancellation of strikes on Iran. But there are some nuances here, and we will discuss them a bit later. Nevertheless, Donald Trump himself gave some advice. Donald advised Iran the day before to make a deal on the nuclear program as soon as possible because a new United States attack on the country would be much worse than the previous one. On Monday, Donald Trump stated that the American armada off the coast of Iran is larger than the one he sent to Venezuela by Wednesday already. In a post on Trust Social, Trump once again confirmed his words and wrote the following: "A huge armada is heading to Iran. It is moving fast with great power, enthusiasm, and determination. As with Venezuela, it is ready, willing, and able to quickly accomplish its mission, if necessary, with the use of force and even violence, although it is still unknown what exactly the mission of this entire armada is. This should also be noted. Initially, let me remind you, Trump threatened to intervene and even support the protests in Iran, but as of now, they have been brutally suppressed and thousands of people have died. And now the range of possible options includes both more limited strikes as punishment for the regime's crackdown on protesters, and a larger scale operation aimed at destabilizing the regime, and possibly to incite a new wave of protests inside Iran. And now Trump is trying to pressure the Ayatollah regime in Tehran, to the point that it's better for you to sign some kind of deal, and then I'll quote Trump, "Time is running out. This is truly a decisive moment. As I already told Iran make a deal, they didn't do it, and Operation Midnight Hammer happened. It was a massive destruction of Iran. I'm talking about the operation in June. The next attack will be much worse. Don't let this happen again." Iran, in response, of course, snaps back and reminds the United States about the war in Iraq. Iran's mission to the United Nations stated, quote, "The last time the United States made a mistake by getting involved in wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, they wasted over $7 trillion and lost more than 7,000 American lives. Iran is ready for dialogue based on mutual respect and interests, but if it is attacked, it will defend itself and respond like never before." But the thing is, at the moment, there are absolutely no serious negotiations between the United States and Iran. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Qatar are currently holding talks with both sides, exchanging messages, but nothing more than that. They're just acting as intermediaries. And this is where things get really interesting. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have publicly stated that they will not allow the United States of America to use their airspace to carry out new strikes against Iran. This sounds, well, kind of disarming for the Americans because it's precisely from this territory that they could have launched attacks. But at the same time, high-ranking officials from the defense and intelligence agencies of Israel and also Saudi Arabia arrived at the White House this week for talks on Iran. And here's what Axios writes about this, quote, "The Israelis came to Washington to share intelligence about possible targets inside Iran. Meanwhile, the Saudis are extremely concerned about a potential regional war and are trying to help achieve a diplomatic solution." White House officials say that Donald Trump has not yet made a final decision. Although on Wednesday he once again threatened Iran with strikes that would be much worse than last time, his aides claim that he is still ready for diplomatic talks. And here I should note that the Minister of Defense of Saudi Arabia, Prince Khalid bin Salman, has arrived in the United States of America from Saudi Arabia. This is very important. He is holding meetings about Iran at the Pentagon, State Department, and White House, including with Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Stephen Witkoff. But why is this important? Because Prince Khalid is the younger brother of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and his closest confidant. And now the intrigue is that in recent days the Saudis have been exchanging messages between the United States and Iran, trying to de-escalate the situation. In simple terms, Israel and Saudi Arabia are now trying to balance the position of the United States of America. Israel says it's necessary to attack. Here's a map with targets where you can strike, while Saudi Arabia says that it's not necessary to attack yet. We can resolve all of this diplomatically, we will be mediators, but still the buildup of United States military power in the Persian Gulf will be completed in the coming days. Then it will become clear if Trump will use this armada against Iran. And accordingly, we will understand who influenced him more, Israel or Saudi Arabia. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. Friends, if you found this episode useful and interesting, You can support the work of this YouTube channel with your donation or subscription using the links and details in the description of this video. I'd appreciate any support. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.